Every morning millions of people over 60 lace up their shoes and head out for a walk thinking they're doing everything right for their health. They've been told for decades that walking is the gold standard for aging well. But here's what the research is starting to show and what many doctors are quietly admitting in their own practices. For a growing number of older adults, walking alone isn't delivering the results they expect. Their balance isn't improving. Their bone density keeps declining. Their energy stays flat. And the reason has nothing to do with effort or motivation. It has everything to do with what walking doesn't challenge in your body after 60. Now, before you think I'm telling you to stop walking, let me be clear. Walking is not bad. It's just incomplete. And if it's the only movement you're doing, you're leaving massive gaps in the systems that actually determine whether you stay independent, mobile, and strong in your 70s, 80s, and beyond. What I'm about to share with you is a 3-minute protocol that targets those gaps directly. It was developed by observing populations with the lowest fall rates and longest mobility spans in the world. And it doesn't replace your walk. It makes your walk worth something. But here's where it gets interesting. The second thing I'm going to show you today is something most people get backwards. It's a movement you've probably tried before, maybe even dismissed as too simple or too easy. But when you do it the right way with one small adjustment, it rebuilds a reflex that walking actually lets decay. A reflex that can mean the difference between catching yourself on a slippery floor and ending up in the emergency room. And the number one thing on this list, the one that takes less than 60 seconds and that most doctors over 70 do themselves every single morning, that's the one that might surprise you the most. So let me ask you this. How old are you right now and where are you watching this from? Drop it in the comments, because what I'm about to walk you through works differently depending on where you're starting. And if you've already been walking regularly for years, you're actually in the best position to benefit from this. Let's get into it. Here's the uncomfortable truth that doesn't get talked about enough. Walking is a forward motion. It trains your body to move in one direction at one speed on predictable ground. And for general health, that's useful. It keeps your heart working. It gets you outside. It burns some calories. But here's what it doesn't do. It doesn't challenge your sideways stability. It doesn't load your bones enough to trigger new bone formation. It doesn't train the fast twitch muscle fibers that fire when you need to catch yourself. And it doesn't improve your ability to get up and down from the ground or a chair, which is one of the strongest predictors of longevity we have. There's a term that gets used in movement science called specificity. It means your body adapts to exactly what you ask it to do and nothing more. If you only walk, your body gets very good at walking on flat, predictable surfaces in a straight line. But life after 60 doesn't happen in straight lines on flat ground. It happens on uneven sidewalks, on wet tile, in dim lighting, when you're carrying something, when you're distracted. And that's when the systems walking doesn't train start to matter. Your lateral stability, your reaction time, your ability to generate force quickly. These are the things that determine whether a misstep is just a stumble or a life-changing fall. Now let me tell you about Margaret. She's 72. She was a school librarian for 30 years. She walked 5 days a week for over a decade. 30 minutes every morning. She felt good. Her doctor told her to keep it up. Then one afternoon she stepped off a curb wrong. Not a high curb. Not icy. Just a normal step. And her ankle rolled. She went down hard. Fractured her wrist trying to catch herself. Spent 6 weeks in a brace. And here's the part that stayed with her. She said she felt her body start to fall and she knew she should do something, but nothing fired fast enough. It was like her muscles were a half second behind her brain. When we worked together, the first thing we tested was her ability to shift weight side to side quickly. She couldn't do it. She could walk just fine, but the moment I asked her to step sideways with any speed or load one leg fully while lifting the other knee, her whole system hesitated. That hesitation is what cost her the wrist. And walking alone, no matter how much of it she did, was never going to fix that. So we added 3 movements. 3 minutes before her walk. Not instead of. Before. Within 2 weeks she told me she felt more planted. Within a month she was catching herself on uneven ground without thinking. That's not motivation. That's specificity. So here's the first thing you need to add, and this one is non-negotiable if you want to stay upright in real-world conditions. It's called the lateral step and load. You're going to stand next to a counter or a sturdy chair, something you can touch lightly for balance but not lean on. Feet together. Now step your right foot directly out to the side about twice the width of your hips. Let your weight shift onto that right leg. Bend the right knee slightly like you're sitting into that hip. Hold it for 2 full seconds. Feel your whole right side working. Then push back to center. That's 1. Do 5 on the right. Then 5 on the left. The goal is not speed. The goal is control. You should feel your outer hip, your glute, your whole side body working to stabilize you. Why does this matter? Because every time you step onto an uneven surface or shift your weight to avoid something or recover from a stumble, your body has to load one leg fully and hold you there while the other leg figures out what to do. Walking never trains that. Walking keeps your weight centered and moving forward. This drill teaches your body to be strong and stable on one leg in a sideways range, which is exactly the range where most falls happen. And if you do this every day, 5 reps each side before you walk, you'll start to notice a difference in how solid you feel within a week. Your foot will feel more connected to the ground. Your hip won't wobble. And your brain will start trusting your legs again in unpredictable moments. Now here's the kicker. This movement also loads your hip bone in a way that walking doesn't. Bone responds to load. It needs force applied in multiple directions to stay dense. Walking applies very light repetitive load in one plane. This lateral step and load applies a stronger load in a plane most people over 60 never challenge. And that's one of the reasons hip fractures are so common. The bone isn't being asked to stay strong in the directions it's most likely to get stressed during a fall. You fix that with 3 minutes a day. Not 3 hours. 3 minutes. Alright, here's the second one, and this is the movement people underestimate the most. It's called sit to stand with pause. You've probably done this before. But here's the version that actually works. You're going to sit in a firm chair. Not a couch. A chair with a hard seat. Feet flat on the ground, hip width apart. Hands can be crossed at your chest or resting on your thighs. Now stand up. But here's the change. As you rise, pause halfway. Hold that half squat position for 3 full seconds. Thighs burning. Core bracing. Then finish standing all the way up. Pause at the top for 1 second. Then sit back down slowly. Control the descent. Don't just drop. Pause halfway down again for 3 seconds. Then sit fully. That's 1 rep. Do 5. Why does this matter so much? Because the ability to get up and down from a chair without using your hands is one of the most reliable predictors of how long you'll live independently. It's called the chair stand test, and it's used in research all over the world. But most people practice it wrong. They just stand up and sit down fast trying to rack up reps. That doesn't build strength. It builds momentum. The pause is where the magic is. When you pause halfway, your muscles have to hold you in the hardest position of the range. No bounce. No momentum. Just pure strength. And that's what builds the leg power you need to get out of a car or off a low couch or up from the ground if you ever end up there. Let me tell you about James. He's 67. Retired electrician. He walked every day. Played golf twice a week. Thought he was in good shape. Then one weekend he sat down on the floor to play with his grandson. And when it was time to get up, he couldn't do it without rolling to his knees and using the couch to pull himself up. He laughed it off. But it bothered him. He said it was the first time he felt old. So we tested his sit to stand. He could do it, but barely. And he couldn't pause halfway. The moment he tried, his legs would shake and he'd either shoot up fast or drop back into the chair. That told me his legs weren't strong enough in the ranges where gravity has the most leverage. We did 5 reps with a pause every morning. Just 5. Within 3 weeks, he could hold the pause without shaking. Within 6 weeks, he got up off the floor without using his hands. He said it felt like someone turned a switch back on. And here's what he told me that really stuck. He said he wasn't afraid of the ground anymore. He didn't avoid sitting on the floor. He didn't worry about low chairs. That's not a small thing. Fear of falling changes how people move. It makes them stiff and cautious, and ironically, that stiffness makes falls more likely. Strength removes that fear. And this movement builds that strength faster than almost anything else. Now here's the third piece, and this is the one that ties it all together. It's called the single leg balance hold with eyes closed. And yes, I said eyes closed. Stay with me. Here's how you do it. Stand next to a counter. Touch it lightly with your fingertips, just enough to feel it's there. Lift your right knee so your right foot is off the ground. Find your balance. Now once you feel stable, close your eyes. Hold it for 10 seconds. If you can't do 10, do 5. If you can't do 5, keep your eyes open and work up to it. Then switch legs. Why is this so critical? Because balance isn't just about muscles. It's about 3 systems working together. Your vision, your inner ear, and something called proprioception, which is your body's ability to sense where it is in space. When you're young, all 3 systems are strong, so if one gets thrown off, the other 2 compensate. But after 60, proprioception starts to decline. And most people never notice because their eyes are doing all the work. They're using vision to balance without realizing it. Then one night they get up to use the bathroom in the dark and they sway. Or they step into a shadow and suddenly feel unsteady. That's because their proprioception isn't being trained. And walking with your eyes open doesn't train it either. Closing your eyes forces your body to rely on proprioception and your inner ear. It wakes up the system. And when you practice this daily, even for 10 seconds per side, your body starts to recalibrate. You become more stable in low light. In uneven conditions. When you're distracted. This is the reflex I was talking about earlier. The one that fires in the half second before you realize you're falling. The one that saved Margaret when she stepped off that curb the second time. And the one that walking alone will never build. Here's the protocol. Lateral step and load 5 reps each side. Sit to stand with pause 5 reps. Single leg balance, eyes closed, 10 seconds each side. Total time just under 3 minutes. Do it every morning before your walk. Or before breakfast. Or while your coffee brews. The timing doesn't matter. The consistency does. And if you're thinking this sounds too simple to work, let me tell you what the research shows. A study following older adults in Japan found that those who practiced lateral weight shifts and single leg balance holds had a 40% lower fall rate over 3 years compared to those who only walked. 40%. That's not a small edge. That's the difference between staying home and staying independent. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever felt unsteady on your feet even for just a moment? Or do you avoid certain movements because you're not sure your legs will hold you? Drop a comment and let me know, because that's the signal your body is trying to send you. It's not weakness. It's specificity. Your body has adapted to what you've asked it to do. And if all you've asked it to do is walk forward, it's not going to be ready for anything else. Here's the thing most people don't realize. Walking keeps what you have. These 3 movements build what you've lost. Walking maintains your cardiovascular base. It keeps your joints moving. It gives you a reason to get outside. And all of that matters. But it doesn't challenge the systems that prevent falls. It doesn't load your bones in the directions they need. And it doesn't train the fast reactive strength that kicks in when life gets unpredictable. That's not a flaw in walking. It's just the reality of specificity. And once you understand that, you stop thinking of movement as one thing. You start thinking of it as a toolkit. Walking is one tool. These 3 drills are 3 more. And together they cover the bases. Now here's the part that might surprise you. The number 1 thing doctors over 70 do themselves, and it takes less than 60 seconds. It's called the floor descent test. Once a week you're going to get down onto the floor and back up using as few support points as possible. What's a support point? Your hand, your knee, your forearm, anything that touches the ground to help you. The goal is to do it with 0 support points if you can. Sit down and stand up without using your hands or knees. If you can't do that yet, use one hand. Then work toward none. Why does this matter? Because the ability to get down to the floor and back up is one of the single strongest predictors of mortality in people over 60. Not heart rate, not cholesterol. There's a scale called the sitting rising test. It's scored out of 10. 5 points for going down, 5 for coming up. You lose 1 point for every support point you use. Research from Brazil tracked over 2,000 adults for more than 6 years. Those who scored 0 to 3 on the test were 5 to 6 times more likely to die during the study period than those who scored 8 or higher. Let that sink in. This one movement pattern is that predictive. Not because getting off the floor prevents death, but because it reflects strength, balance, flexibility, coordination, and body awareness all at once. And those are the things that determine whether you stay functional or not. So once a week, try it. Get down onto the floor, however you can. Then get back up. Count how many times you used your hands or knees. Write it down. Then practice the 3 drills I just gave you every day for a month. And test yourself again. You will improve. And that improvement is not cosmetic. It's existential. It's the difference between being able to help yourself and needing help. Between independence and dependence. Between confidence and fear. Let me tell you about Carol. She's 74. Former nurse. She walked every morning for years. But she told me she hadn't sat on the floor in over a decade. Not because she couldn't. She just didn't. So when I asked her to try the floor test, she looked at me like I was crazy. But she did it. It took her 3 support points to get down and 4 to get up. She was frustrated. She said she felt weak. I told her she wasn't weak. She was untrained. There's a difference. We added the 3 drills. 5 minutes a day. And once a week she practiced getting down and up. Slowly. Safely. No pressure. Just practice. 2 months later she did it with 1 support point. 3 months later 0. She cried. Not because it was hard. Because it made her feel like herself again. She said she didn't realize how much she'd been avoiding until she didn't have to anymore. She started sitting on the floor to play with her grandkids. She started gardening again on her knees. She said she felt like she got a piece of her life back. That's what movement specificity does. It doesn't just make you stronger. It makes you braver. And bravery at 74 is freedom. So here's the summary. Walking is not wasting your time. But walking alone is leaving your balance, your lateral stability, your bone density, and your get up and go on the table. Add 3 minutes every day. Lateral step and load. Sit to stand with pause. Single leg balance, eyes closed. And once a week test your floor descent. That's it. You don't need a gym. You don't need equipment. You don't need to stop walking. You just need to add the pieces walking doesn't cover. And when you do that, you stop hoping your body holds up. You start knowing it will. Now here's my question for you. Which one of these 3 movements are you going to start with tomorrow and why? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear what spoke to you. And if you've already been doing any of these, tell me how it's changed the way you move. Let's build a conversation. Because the people who win at aging aren't the ones who do the most. They're the ones who do the right things consistently. And now you know what those things are.